Chapter 6, Logistics. In operating a logistics section, it is important to remember that supplies, services, and facilities can be scarce or difficult to acquire. Operation agencies, when operating at peak capacity, consume resources at a fast rate. The logistics section exists to ensure that operation functions maintain an operational tempo by keeping everyone supplied. Logistics activities require a special skill set that is not always present in traditional response agencies. The logistics section is responsible for all supporting requirements needed to facilitate effective and efficient incident management, including ordering resources from off-incident locations. The logistics section provides facilities, transportation, supplies, equipment, maintenance and fuel, food services, communication and IT support, and emergency responder medical service. In short, that's basically care and treatment for the workers that are on scene, not necessarily the patients that they may encounter on scene, if that makes sense. When we look at the logistics section broken down into its possible smaller subgroups, again, depending on the complexity of the unit, it can be comprised of the supply unit, food unit, communication unit, ground support unit, facilities, and of course the medical unit. The logistics section is led by a section chief who may also have a deputy to help coordinate all the various smaller entities, because again, looking at our effective span control. Unified logistics is the utilization and coordination of two or more agencies or jurisdictions in the logistics section. Unified logistics apply to high-impact, long-duration incidences where several diverse agencies have specialized logistic requirements. Unified logistics is implemented by assigning two or more logistics section chiefs from different agencies or jurisdictions to a unified logistics section. The desired end state is a logistics section that supports a wide range of supplies, tools, vehicle, equipment, and personnel needs. So for example, let's say you had an incident that involved, say, fire and law enforcement, and both of those entities need stuff, and you wouldn't really want a logistics person from the fire side to try to pick out exactly what the law enforcement folks need, and vice versa. So again, here's the concept. Let's get the subject matter experts in there, have them work together, and order the stuff. Now, is there going to be some overlay where, for example, food or facilities? Yes, both entities would know how to order that and need that. So by having them all grouped together is going to prevent that whole duplication of efforts. Now, Table 6-1 has keys to successful logistics implementation, and there are 13 of them, and you can also read them here. The support branch provides services that assist the incident operations by providing supplies, facilities, transportation, and equipment maintenance. The support branch consists of the following units. Supply unit, which orders, receives, stores, and processes all resources. Resources are personnel, supplies, and equipment needed for the incident operation. When established, the supply unit has the basic responsibility for ordering all the resources, including the following, such as all tactical and support resources and all expendable and non-expendable supplies required for the incident support. The supply unit also handles tool operations, which include storing, dispersing, and servicing all tools and portable, non-expendable equipment. The facilities unit establishes, maintains, and demobilizes all facilities. They provide facility maintenance and security services required to support the incident operation. They set up the EOC, area command, the command post, incident base, and camps, as well as trailers and/or other forms of shelter for use around the incident area. They provide and set up necessary personal support facilities, including areas for food, water, services, sleeping, sanitation, showers, staging, and basically any other support operations. Sheltering for victims is normally conducted by an approved non-governmental organization or NGO, such as Red Cross or Salvation Army or church services, that kind of stuff. So this does not traditionally fall in the logistics branch. Again, the logistics kind of supports all the workers at the incident. Okay, and next we have the ground support unit, which maintains and repairs the primary tactical equipment, vehicles, and mobile ground support equipment. They record the usage time for all ground equipment. Again, because that's important, because the incident itself is responsible for how long equipment is used, and the owners of that equipment is going to get reimbursed so much per hour. And there's a big complex formula and federal regulations on that, but just know that you have to keep track of how much you spend and what's used, etc., if you're going to get reimbursed. Alright, so the ground support unit also supplies fuel and mobile equipment, transportation, and maintains a transportation pool for major incidences. Okay, the service branch has a lot going on in it, so make sure you know the difference between the service branch and the support branch. Now, the service branch provides communication, food, water, and medical services. The service branch consists of the following: communication unit, food unit, and medical unit. The communication unit is responsible for developing the communication plan to make the most effective use of the communication equipment and facilities assigned to the incident. It also takes care of installing and testing all communication equipment. They also supervise and operate the Incident Communication Center. They distributing and recovering of communication equipment assigned to the incident and personnel. They also maintain and repair communication equipment on site. Now, the communication unit is responsible for effective communication planning. It must be coordinated with dispatch centers and the EOC during major incidences or events. Now, the radio network for large instances can get a little confusing, but they set up the different bands, if you will, into like command net, tactical net, support nets, ground air net, air to air nets, and marine nets. So essentially what you have is one group, like a strike team or task force, if you will, talking to one another on one frequency. And then if that group needs anything from, command or support or whatever the case may be, then the incident leader of that group will in turn contact that agency on their radio frequency. So essentially you only have, one person monitoring other frequencies and things of that nature. So everybody's talking on their own individual channel, so things don't get confusing, or in theory that's the plan. Now, with so many radio frequencies, it can be a nightmare to try to remember who's who. So that's why you have these written incident action plans, and when you look in these incident action plans, it outlines the way to contact each one of these individuals, whether it be cell phone, radio, or both, so you can get the support needed while you're operating during your operational period. Okay, so the command nets link together command staff, section chiefs, branch directors, and division and group supervisors. You have the tactical nets, which connect agencies, departments, geographical areas, or specific functional units. And then you have support nets that handle changes in resource status. Ground-air nets are for communicating and coordinating among ground and aviation units. And then, of course, air-to-air nets use approved FFA frequencies, basically, plane to plane, or helicopter to helicopter, whatever the case may be. And then, of course, marine nets are for your boats. Now, communication is one of the biggest keys to success in any operation. So, if there is any communication failures, they should have some sort of backup in place. So, the service branch is also tasked with identifying major communication networks and backup systems. Of course, effective planning and private response agencies anticipate communication failure and develop appropriate procedures. So, a couple of ideas could be, obviously, if our 800 megahertz radio goes down, what about ham radio operators? That's another idea. Your local, Aries type groups, that's another great source. Of course, cell phones or satellite phones. But again, if it's a big disaster, it's quite possible that, cell towers may be overloaded or are not working. So you may be tasked with using, CB radios. Again, whatever the case may be, whatever you have and whatever works. Okay, so food unit. They say an army moves on its stomach. Well, a lot of that is true in regards to your groups working at a major incident or even a minor incident. You're going to have food, you're going to have water, you're going to have a way to cook these things, and of course, the safety and security of the food is a big thing. Is it contaminated? Is it, cooked properly in the whole 9 yards? So you may have a food unit, which again is tasked with providing food for the workers. And one great idea I've seen in the field is individuals who had food trucks. This individual was running an operations center. He had a Rolodex filled with like all these catering food trucks. Hey, we have this disaster going on. Can you provide, food for XYZ amount of people, and then of course they have some sort of agreed upon rate. But food trucks are great for coming into disaster areas, especially as long as they're in the cold zone, they're not in the actual hazard. Because think about it, they've already been inspected, they're used to being self-sufficient, and they can feed a lot of people in a short amount of time. So our next branch is the medical unit, and this, again, is providing medical services to your incident personnel. They are headed up by a medical unit leader that develops an incident medical plan. And this medical plan would say, okay, aid stations are here and here. Ambulance transport is staged here. If somebody gets hurt, they're going to go to the local trauma center or whatever the case may be. So they kind of plan everything out. If it's far away, they may have a helicopter, and then here's the frequency for the helicopter, and basically they kind of lay out a procedure. So it's like, okay, who does the rescuer call when they get hurt? And that's how it is. Where the layperson is going to call 911. Well, one of the rescuers are hurt. This is who we're going to call, and this is what we're going to do. Okay, so one concept that they talk a little bit about in this section is something called push and pull logistics. So in a push logistics system, response agencies carry the equipment and supplies to the emergency scene. And pull logistics is when vehicles, personnel, and support equipment have to be ordered or pulled from outside support agencies. To me, I think it should be the other way, but hey, I didn't make up the system. So again, pull is when you have to pull it from an outside agency, and push is when they carry it with them. Now, pull logistics function is complicated in interagency and private sector coordination. Pull logistics resources include mutual aid, contracting, and donation. Okay, so I do want to spend a minute and talk about volunteers and donations. Now, when you have donations, they can be extremely overwhelming. Now, everybody and their grandmother, for lack of a better term, sees disasters going on and they want to help. So they may not, donate money, but let's say they donate clothes, and that's the biggest thing. Oh, all these people are, without homes and shelters, and they need clothes. So they go clean out their closet, and now you've got, all these bags and bags of clothes. Or maybe it's water, shovels, wheelbarrows, whatever the case may be. Now, these donations are coming in, and you don't want to turn them away because, that kind of looks bad. Of course, there's also nothing worse than the news media sitting here filming, people, wet, soggy, dirty clothes, and then they take a shot of all these donated clothes just kind of piled up somewhere, in bags. So a good way to bridge this gap is to get your VOADs, your volunteer organizations, to help kind of coordinate and disseminate the donations. So that's again when you get those Red Cross, your faith-based groups, the Salvation Army, and they're used to handling donations, so they can kind of come in, organize it, get things kind of squared away, and then you refer the victims of the incident to this particular area where they can get those donations, whether it be bottled water, clothing, food, etc. Now, with these volunteers, you really need them to be credentialed. So that's why I say volunteers are great, but what I mean by credentialed is they have some sort of formal training, whether it be first aid, shelter management, things of that nature. So again, that's why I do recommend using your faith-based groups or your non-for-profit, because they traditionally have some sort of training in place before these volunteers come out to an incident or a scene. Okay, so let's sum it up. The logistics section supports all activities. The logistics section has a support branch. Logistics functions are based on push or a pull system. A communication failure protocol is a critical element of logistics planning. Volunteers and donations present management challenges. Yay. Okay, gang, so if you haven't already, make sure you read Chapter 6 and go ahead and get your review questions knocked out. And there's also a FEMA independent study class that goes along with this chapter that needs to go ahead and get done. So, if you have any questions, you can email me at aroberts@athens.tech.edu or give me a call here in the office. Until next time, be safe. Have a great day.